folks, to another episode of the Lone Wolf Howlcast, howling out for logic and reason. There's no catchphrase after that this time, folks. We all know what's happening in the world now. So I'm going to jump in with both feet. We've threatened and promised and threatened again about some 40K convo, and Tiral, we're jumping into that real quick before we move on.
Oh, hell yeah.
So,
let's do it.
Old school OG 40K lore. I don't even remember if it was real Games Workshop theory or fan theory, but the whole idea was that if the Emperor actually ever got killed, he would ascend to something called the Star Child. Like basically, he'd be reborn, more powerful than you can ever imagine. You know, to steal a little bit from Obi-Wan Kenobi there at the end of New Hope, or middle of New Hope, really. But I've noticed in a lot of the stuff they're pushing for gene stealer cults in the White Dwarf magazines, that like the cult mantra is to suck people into this cult of the Star Children. And the Star Children are now the Tyranids, of course, as we all know. And it looks like the theory of the Emperor as the Star Child has finally been put to bed, I guess.
Instead of the Star Child being like old lore, I think the old lore is still more interesting. The idea that out in the warp, this godling was forming, was gestating. All the belief in the Emperor as a god was feeding into it, and that it was growing and it was growing. And the whole thing was dependent on somebody killing off the Emperor and not letting him come back to life.
Mm-hmm.
And then the godling would actually, wake up, and that would be the Star Child. I thought it was really good lore, whether it was made by GW or by the fans. The old stuff was kind of mix of both. But with the new, especially with author Dan Abnett, he's done like multiple interviews where he's basically saying that the Emperor is a perpetual and that he keeps dying and coming back to life, dying and coming back to life. And that's why the throne is actually like a horror show. And the custodies are like, their armor gets burnt because there's so much like psychic energy going off at the whole, and so much horror of the situation. Like he's being tortured for the last 10,000 years.
Yeah. Yep.
And so on one hand, I miss the old lore with the Star Child, but on the other hand, the new lore is even more horrific and grimdark. And it kind of makes the Emperor look like the good guy. Like he may not have been the good guy when he was out and about, but the Emperor as an entity is definitely a force of good. I think now, maybe not really good, but definitely pro humanity. So it's kind of
We've also learned that Vulcan is hanging out in the throne room as like his never-ending protector.
Wait, is that now to this day?
Everybody knows now. It's not really a secret if you've been paying attention to the novels that Vulcan is a perpetual as well.
He's the only one that's a perpetual out of the Sons.
Well, that we know so far, right? Because technically, Girly Man never really died. He was put in suspended animation, so we don't know. In the Horus Heresy novels, or really, I think it's the Siege of Terra novels now, Vulcan is guarding the broken webway gate that Magnus broke. So he's in the throne room because that's where the webway gate was, or is in the throne room with the Emperor.
So wait a minute, that like the salamanders are running around the universe trying to find Vulcan when he's at home this whole time?
I think that's my strong suspicion, is that because, I mean, unless they're going to do future novels where for some reason Vulcan leaves his post. I mean, he's there on Earth in the throne room guarding the webway gate.
That would break so many like conventions, and it would be crazy funny if it's true too. Like before you told me that, I know like Vulcan just lost faith in the Imperium, but he still like loves humanity. But he doesn't think the Imperium of man is humanity. So he's like, when humans need me, I'll come. But I'm not coming for the Imperium.
Well, it left off with him standing guard at the broken webway gate.
Wow. Then
So
man,
he's there. I mean, they haven't updated his location yet, so as far as we know, he's still there.
so he's where you last will look. And so I got a question then. Is that idea that the salamanders have, like, oh, if we get all like 7 or whatever number of like artifacts, that Vulcan will come back? Was that something they just made up? Was that something that like Vulcan said to bullshit them? Like, is it real? Like, what do you think about that?
Well, my lore on Vulcan isn't all that strong, but out of all of the Primarchs, he's probably been the most humanitarian.
Yeah.
You know, well, not probably, he is. I mean, he's pretty much the bleeding heart, if there ever was such a thing, you know, and far futuristic, you know, lab created super people, you know?
Right.
Like, who the hell knows, man? All right, let's move on to the next thing. Otherwise, we are going to go way down that rabbit hole.
Salamanders is one of my favorite legions, so
Yeah, they're pretty cool, actually. I dig them. Okay, fine. Other segue on that. I can't mention it enough. I've mentioned it before. It's still out there on YouTube, although it's not on the originators or the creators channel. But a ways back, I think it was 2016 when this came out, that a guy did an independent fan film for Helsreach during the war for, like, I think the second or third war for Armageddon. And it was a novel. It's a Black Library novel of the same name, Helsreach. And he did that very loose, like pencil shading style for almost the entire movie, and it's brilliant. But the reason I'm bringing it up is that the Black Templars mounted the fence against the Orcs with some salamanders, and the salamanders aren't willing to abandon the civilian shelter and go on the offense when the Black Templars are like, the war boss is like right there. If we all just push, we can get there. And the salamanders wouldn't budge from I can't even talk tonight, Throw, from defending the shelter. So their humanity got in the way of, like, you know, the strategy.
I find the whole thing really interesting because here was this independent creator who was doing it out of love,
Mm-hmm.
and enough of the fan base was toxic to him that he just stopped. And I mean, artists are often sensitive, and they care about their work. They take criticism, and I just feel like sometimes, as any fan base, once it gets big enough, you're just gonna get a bunch of horrible people with horrible social skills,
Oh, if
and they're
one day we could only experience that with our little old podcast here, Throw.
yeah. I don't know. I mean, careful what you wish for. I mean, but I mean, the guy straight up quit, and like it was just
Well, I think he got hired by GW, didn't he? And then
not
because of
not
that, he had to cease and desist doing
not
anything
him.
on the side.
Nope, nope. He didn't. Soda's got hired,
Sodas did, and the other guy who did the actual Astartes miniseries, he got picked up too.
but not the guy who's Hellsreach.
I thought the
So
Hell's guy got picked up. I can't remember his name for the life of me right now.
he lashed out at the fan base. He said, like, "F you guys, like, I don't want to do this anymore."
Ah,
You guys, yeah. So it's just kind of like sometimes, well, again, both of us are on Reddit, and like we observe like fan communities, and like eventually, like once a fan community gets big enough, you just start seeing toxic behavior.
oh yes.
Yeah. So like we wish. I mean, you and I can be critical, but we never take things personal.
Yeah, we're not
Like it's
taking
not.
pot shots at people about it either, you know?
Yeah. So it's. I think I might have crossed the line once. I remember during the review of Cowboy Bebop, I mentioned that one of the head of the writer group, or the one who manages the writers, she was basically the daughter of one of the studio execs at Netflix. Like that's the reason
Mm-hmm.
why she got. I mean, maybe that crosses the line into like a personal attack,
Meh,
but
who cares?
you know what I mean. Like sometimes, maybe like you can't throw stones, but like no one's childhood is getting you know destroyed because something new came out and it sucked. You can get angry that something new that based on IP from your childhood sucks, but you're not, this whole complaint like, oh my God, you ruined my childhood. Like, no, like, no, the old stuff is there if you still want it. Like, there's no problem. We should just be kinder and more empathetic to everybody. So that's, I'm gonna complain and bitch a lot about Halo today. So I'm just trying to soften
Yeah,
whatever.
well, all right, let's get into that. So Halo, the season 1, episode 1 dropped on Paramount Plus.
Mhm.
It's live
All the
action. What?
We only get all the reviewers have the first 4 episodes out of 6. We only got to see one.
Okay, well, I guess you and I aren't cool enough to count because, we only got to see episode 1.
Right. And the reviews have been poor, so I guess it gets worse and worse after the first episode.
Well, it feels like, so let's discuss the timeline, right? Because it feels like this is at the beginning of the Halo series. Like, humanity has just come into contact with the Covenant. The war at the Covenant has just started, right? The general population doesn't know who the Covenant are, or what the elites are, or what any of the bad guys are, or any of the aliens are. So that's how I read it. That's how it felt to me in the timeline. Did you have a different take on that, and like when it's happening?
So I just found out today that the show is taking a lot of inspiration or a lot of its cues from a couple of the Halo books.
Okay, cool.
And not the video game. So it's kind of like they're going through some storylines in like books that novelizations, but not the actual video game. So what's happening now in the first episode is something that occurred in one of the novels, and I think the show explicitly left it very ambiguous about like how much humanity knows, because that town or that planet that got hit was just like a rando outskirts town. So it wasn't like a main planet. So I think in the lore, it's probably what you said, but the show has got enough leeway to be like, no, it's just this backwards planet that no one knows about, so they don't know about things. So,
well, it's also a weren't they like a failed rebellion? Like, weren't they secessionists that failed or something like that? Yeah.
They were still seceding. They didn't fail, but they didn't succeed. They were just like, we want to do our own thing, and we don't want to be underneath the thumb of USMC.
UNSC, by the way. You just did United States Marine Corps, buddy.
Yeah. They didn't want to be underneath them, and like I'll be frank, I thought the story was nonsensical. I thought most of the acting was pretty bad, except for the Asian girl. She could emote, she could act.
Yeah, the kid.
Yeah, the kid.
Or teen, whatever she is. She looks like, I don't know, to me she looked like she was maybe 13, 14. Something.
She but she was the only one that looked like she could act. And I think, this is my main contention. I think the director that they chose was really bad. And because this whole series cost 200 million.
Woo-hoo. The whole series or just the episode?
Yeah, like for the whole series, for the whole 6 episodes. So it's not like the show people didn't have money, but I think because they chose a bad director, and there's enough signs where it looks like this bad director is more used to cheap TV or low budget things, that he or she doesn't know what they're really doing with the budget. So one of the signs of you're seeing a very low budget sci-fi or indie or horror movie is extreme numbers of close-ups on people's faces. Because if you close up on people's faces, you don't show the viewer the background, their costumes, a lot of that things where they can pick up details and be like, hey, that looks like styrofoam, So you do close-ups, and like this entire show was like 90% extreme close-ups of people's faces. And that is really, so when you do close-ups in movie directing language, when you do close-ups of people's faces, it's like an intense moment because you as a person is seeing a person's face really close up, and you're like, you can see what they're feeling. Whatever they're feeling is more intense because you're like right there. But if you have that continuously, we go from like empathizing a lot with what they're going through to just like, I'm stressed out because I'm just staring at someone's face.
I would agree. I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt you, Terrell, but I actually do agree that some of the CGI was pretty bad. Like there's a scene where Master Chief is jumping across the terrain, and it looked, I don't know, it looked very stilted and disjointed and kind of like jerky motion.
The jumps looked unnatural.
Yeah.
He looked unnatural. How did all that $200 million get used? Because this doesn't look right. But yeah, there's a lot of close-ups and a lot of just people talking, sitting and talking, and not just the director is bad, but the editor. You keep seeing these cuts, like face to face, face to face. Like it's not smooth. The number of cuts in every scene is like too much. You never get to really see all like both people talking at the same time and on screen. These are like really technical issues that absolutely shouldn't be present in you know, a very expensive, very delayed franchise series. This is stuff you see at indie films. And when you see it in indie or TV films, like if we watched it in Stargate Atlantis, like it's a cheap show, right? If you saw the same things in Stargate Atlantis or a show like that, we don't mind
Mm-hmm.
because our expectations aren't there. We're just there for the fun, for the chemistry, for the story, but we're not there for like technical brilliance, or we're not like scenic or anything like that. But with Halo, we kind of are. I mean, they advertise in the Super Bowl, so our expectations are higher. This is
Right.
not just a little show, trying to make it. This is Microsoft and 343 Industries and things like that. Like so the story was disjointed. Like things kept happening. There's a MacGuffin. All the story follows those books I was talking to you about, but still doesn't feel good. It still doesn't sound very. I don't know. I just really didn't like it. We have a mutual friend that watched it. And he said he loved it, but I couldn't get past how low quality it was.
Yeah. One of the complaints. So for the record here, I actually enjoyed it. It felt like a bit of a fresh take on Halo. Like the Spartans are still relatively a new program. Uh, Dr. Halsey is on the outs with the military, but like she's a necessary evil that they need because she's the most brilliant scientist the world, humanity has. But I noticed every time they picked anybody in the Spartan armor picked up a weapon, they couldn't seat the stock of the rifle into their shoulder, and every single time I saw it, the rifle stock was hanging out over the top of their bicep on the armor.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's not how rifles work.
I mean, Steven Seagal movies work, but
Yeah,
not.
I guess it was Steven Seagal in all four Spartan armor suits. I guess.
Unreasonably bad CGI.
Well, it wasn't even CGI because they do have actors in the phys rep costumes for the Spartans and the armor and stuff. And every time one of them stopped and picked up a weapon,
It
I
just
was
is
like,
poor form.
it just didn't. They weren't carrying it right. I don't know if it's because of the way the armor was made, like the physical armor that they
Maybe
were
didn't.
in, that they were wearing, and they just couldn't seat the shoulder stock into their shoulder crook. Yeah, that bothered me every single time. I still thoroughly enjoyed it. I thought it was pretty cool. Watching the melee between the elites and the Spartans was really cool. So I mean, I'll watch episode 2. We'll see how it goes, if it gets better or worse. Now, the one big problem I have with it, and this is probably my last complaint, is that there was zero reason for Master Chief to take his helmet off at all.
Huge complaint. How does this happen in two different beloved franchises? Taking helmets off is like the biggest issue. Mandalorian,
Right?
Boba Fett.
Well, in The Mandalorian, it took a long time to get to that point. And Boba Fett, he's like, I'll just wander around without my helmet for a while, you know?
Well, with the Mandalorian, it was an issue because the actor who played Mandalorian, Pedro Pascal, was just like, I can't. Why is everyone else having their helmets off, but I have to keep my helmet on? I want to emote. I'm on this TV show. I'm supposed to be the star. So he forced the whole issue of taking off his helmet. Like, so we have three different shows where taking off or putting on helmets is like a huge deal. How does this happen? What did
Right.
we all become obsessed with helmets?
And you can still emote with body language, the voiceover helps. Like, for example, right? I know a guy who didn't take his helmet off and did a phenomenal job until he finally died in Return of the Jedi. And that guy is Darth Vader, with David Prowse in the costume and James Earl Jones's voice as the voice, right? And
Powerful
like
concept.
Vader, you can't tell what the heck his face looked like ever until he finally bites it in Return of the Jedi. And it was all that body language and James Earl Jones's intonation and inflection and
Acting.
his voice. It was the voice acting that sells it. That's all you need if you're
Yeah.
gonna have a dude with a helmet on. The body language and the voice acting.
So again, like you said, why did he have to take the helmet off? There was stupid reason like, oh, if you want to kill me, you can kill me now. And he takes off his helmet. Like, that was dumb. Um, there's a bunch of just. I'm gonna watch the episodes too, but I just have a bad feeling this is gonna be a shit story with horrible acting. And I know between me and you, I'm always defending like wokeness or whatnot.
Yeah.
I have a very bad feeling that this show is gonna go off the rails in that direction.
Well, so we already see in episode 1 that Master Chief is already rebelling against the military command by keeping the girl alive when he's actually ordered to kill her. But we saw that in the video games too. So that's not a new concept, like him rebelling and going against the grain.
Happens in the
That's
games.
happened in the games.
I'm just thinking like it happens in the games. Okay, so you know how I keep saying the story was nonsensical in the first episode? Why did they have to kill the girl? Why did they make such a big deal that Master Chief didn't kill the girl? Why did Master Chief's crew just turn on him on a dime, not asking questions? Like, even I was just like, what if they're just going along with orders, but like at the last minute they're gonna be like, wait, we're not gonna kill our man. Like he's the guy who's been leading us this whole time. Like it was, and like the MacGuffin just did a EMP blast. Like it was just like there was so many just nonsensical, nothing set up, just things were happening, and it was just like I can't get down with this. Like this is stupid.
Well,
And and
I kind of get the rest of the Spartan squad because
just
Halsey made them. Like they're Halo's version of Space Marines, pretty much. I don't know if they have extra organs, but their muscle density, their bone
like
density,
tall,
they're
faster.
taller, their bone density is increased, their muscle density is increased, their reflexes. They're for all intents and purposes Space Marines in the Halo universe, and
Hmm.
she's their creator. Like she's kind of their mother, really, is if from the lore, from the Halo lore. That's kind of how it sorts out. She's their scientific mother, so to me, it made sense that they would follow her more than the military command if she told them to do something different than what their actual orders were. To me, that made sense.
Okay, so maybe I'm the one in the wrong here. I don't know, man. I just have a bad feeling we're watching a bad show. And maybe like the first thing is though, like when it comes to anime or TV shows or Netflix shows or whatever, usually the first episode or two is not good. And like, then once it settles in, all of a sudden it gets good. So I'm hoping that's the case, but I just have a bad feeling about this one. This is definitely not must watch. Like I paid $3 for Paramount Plus, and I'm just like, maybe I could have done without it. I think the show that's gonna be worth the money though is Moon Knight coming on Disney Plus pretty soon.
Disney has also taken over, or will now be streaming, the Luke Cage, Punisher, Daredevil, and the other Marvel series that were on Netflix for a while. Now, I don't know if they're going to be adding to them and extending them, but crap, his name escapes me. The actor who plays Daredevil in that series, the former Netflix series, he pops up as Matt Murdock in Spider-Man No Way Home. So he's still relevant and alive in the Marvel universe now. So I'm wondering if Disney is going to go ahead and like add on new seasons to those series now that they're on Disney Plus.
From everything I've read, that's exactly what they're going to do. The only thing
Yes.
is they're going to hand wave everything from the Netflix shows. So it's like the Netflix shows is AU, and they're going to have new things. Like everything that happens in Disney Plus is like the new timeline. So they're never going to really refer back to the past. They'll just move
It's going to
forward.
move forward. Okay.
Yeah, and some of the characters will have some like character changes. So Kingpin got changed a bit.
Well, there was some conversation about that I saw online, and he pops up. All right, I guess we're getting into spoiler zone here. The Kingpin that pops up at the end of the Hawkeye series
Mm-hmm.
is like an alternate universe Kingpin. Like he's got a freaking Hawaiian shirt on instead of a
Mm-hmm.
business suit, you know?
Yeah. Well, no. See, that's the thing. That Kingpin is now the Disney Plus Kingpin. Like the Kingpin that we saw in the Netflix shows is the AU.
All right. Well,
It's
whatever the
weird.
case may be,
I
at
like
least
the
they
whole.
didn't turn him into like a black chick. It's still Vincent D'Onofrio as
Hey,
a Kingpin.
that guy owns that role.
Yeah.
There's I can't see him as. Can you imagine someone else taking on? Like yeah, he owns that role.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're gonna have a whole new series. I don't think we're gonna get a Iron Fist. I'm thinking they're gonna leave that one alone. But
Yeah, Iron Fist sucked. That was really horrible. The only time it was good was when they did the little Defenders miniseries and they all got together. Like
yeah,
Jessica Jones was also a great series, and I guess that's
they'll
being brought
legit.
over too. But yeah, and not because it's whitewashing or whatever woke bullshit, but it's just the acting was really bad in Iron Fist, and they were
Action
really
was
doing like a
bad.
bad job of pulling the lore in about why he is the Iron Fist and blah blah blah.
So Disney Plus is gonna have all those shows: Obi-Wan, Moon Knight. Like,
Cassian. They're also doing the other Star Wars
oh
miniseries on
right,
Cassian.
I think so Obi-Wan is gonna come before that one. So
Yeah.
Cassian might, yeah. So I'll definitely order Disney Plus for a bit. The I can't help though when these Marvel characters were in Disney, they had the opportunity to do some crazy stuff. So Jessica Jones was like a hard R with very tough adult concepts and situations.
Yeah. Yep.
Punisher, I mean,
Punisher is extremely hard R.
yeah, like
Just the violence alone, let alone the language.
and the concepts and everything, start to
Yeah.
finish. So I am just scared that once everything goes to Disney Plus official, they're all gonna get nerfed. Like now, Punisher
Well,
doesn't really
maybe.
kill.
I mean, I don't know. I can't think of anything off the top of my head on Disney right now that's pretty violent. So you might be right. But hopefully, I mean, we'll see. It remains to be seen.
It's we don't know for sure, but the fear is there that Netflix didn't always take advantage of its opportunities and possibilities, but it had those possibilities, and I don't know if that same leeway is there in Disney. How do you do Punisher where he doesn't literally kill people?
Right. Well, maybe he just knocks him out for a little while, you know?
Yeah, he's gonna do the Batman, like when I run you over with my car, but you're not dead, so everything's
Right.
fine. Speaking of Batman, did you see the movie?
No, not yet. But I actually wanted to comment one more thing about Halo before we move on to the movie stuff.
Mm.
Halo was ultra violent. I thought that was pretty cool. Like in the video games, the Covenant plasma rifles don't do anywhere near the death and destruction that they were doing in the series. And I thought that was a
Didn't you?
pretty cool uptick.
Yeah, but didn't you feel like the way like the humans were fighting didn't make any sense? They would just like get up and run. They'd just stand up and shoot the gun. Like they wouldn't go into cover. Like it was just like
A
this is.
lot of them were in cover, were shooting from cover. It's just the Covenant guys were just tearing through it.
I don't know, man. If you watch it over again, people just get up and run or like stand up and shoot. Like it was very like kind of stupid.
There was also some weird MacGuffin thing that, like the old Asian guy, General Ha, I think his name was, or whatever.
Hmm.
Kwan Ha, I think. Oh, no, that's the girl's name. I don't remember the general's name. Whatever. He's on the back of
That
like a civilian version of the Warthog, but he's got the Gatling gun. And as soon as the elites break through the gate into their little stronghold area, everybody's unloading on the elites, and it seems like regular bullets, including the Gatling gun bullets, are not even getting through the elite shields.
yeah.
But Master Chief picks up the Gatling gun and does the cool tear it off the mounting, and all of a sudden
So
he's tearing through them with the same exact bullets. You
it
know,
was.
so
Yeah, this is what I mean by like warning signs that like, oh man, we might be dealing with a bad show.
yeah, the
Is
power scaling is
right.
weird because like the Spartan assault rifles and battle rifles, use bullets and they're not super high powered or anything.
Mhm.
So like all of a sudden the Spartan rifles are tearing through the elites' shields, whereas the whole entire town is shooting at three elites with all kinds of weapons, and it's just like bing, 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 pinging off the
Yeah,
shielding. So I don't know.
it again bad signs. We'll
I
keep.
still liked it though. Like I like the design. They buffed up the elites a little bit. That they're not as spindly as they were in the games. They got a little more mass to them. I have no idea. I honestly have no idea what the object is that Master Chief finds in the cave. I don't know if that's going to end up leading us to a Halo in the series, or if that's going to be like one of the Guardian artifacts or something. I don't know. Looks pretty
I
cool.
think. Yeah, I mean, if we read the books, then we would know.
Well, I didn't,
It's
so
not
there.
following the video games. It's just books.
No, I know.
I can't co-sign the helmet coming off. I can't co-sign like how
Nah, there's
nothing
no
makes sense.
reason for that helmet to come off. And I'm grasping at straws here, but I'm just trying to come up with a reason, is that he was trying to show the girl, because the girl was so terrified of him, that he was trying to show her, I'm human like you. Like, look, I'm not just a
Like,
machine under here. Maybe he was looking for some relatability there with the girl.
I mean, that might have been the purpose, but it fell flat. I think that was exactly the intention, and it was just like, listen, what the hell just happened? Again, 3 different shows where the controversy is about the helmet. Like, oh my god, like, are we crazy? Pandemic turned us crazy. Are we all obsessed about helmets now? Like, oh,
I want the helmets to stay on. So yeah, I'm obsessed in the sense that I
depends on
want it
the.
to stay on.
If it's Mando and Master Chief and Boba Fett, those helmets should be welded on, as far as I'm concerned.
They get stapled onto the actors' heads. Can't take it off until filming's done, guys.
Yeah,
Sorry,
yeah,
not sorry.
that's why you get paid the big bucks. Like, but I mean, I will say though, even though Pedro Pascal forced the issue with Mandalorian, the scene when he takes off the helmet, that was extremely like emotional,
Mhm.
impactful. It talked about character. It
And he
talked
also
about how
played like he didn't want to do it, but he had to do it for that particular scenario.
he was uncomfortable with his face shown. Yeah, like it was from a story perspective and a character perspective, he had a choice: either stay with his religion or do something against his religion, but that may protect his baby. And he chose Baby Yoda.
Yeah.
So, like, you know, and then later on, we see that, that has ramifications, and even from the religious people. So it felt true. It felt good. Like, okay, when he took it off, like, I got it. Like, I understand. But I don't know. Boba Fett was the worst, though. That was like, that,
Yeah, we said that in one of our previous episodes. I said it that he's walking around carrying it like he doesn't know what to do with the helmet.
yeah.
And it was so awkward to watch him dangling his EE3 blaster in his right hand and like holding it loose and then like trying to like hug a bowling ball that was his helmet under his other arm.
I
It
don't
just
think
didn't
we're.
work.
I don't think we're gonna get a second season.
You don't think there's gonna be Boba Fett too?
I don't think there's gonna be another second season. Also, we Disney finally confirmed 100% that Gina Carano's kicked out of the Disney Corporation lineup. Like
Ah,
she's perma banned, and Winslet, not Kate Winslet, but she's one of these actresses that she's okay. She does action movies. She's gonna take like the Gina Carano slot. So Gina Carano's character is just like gone. We're never gonna see her again. But we're gonna have another tough, badass female character coming up.
of course we will.
But I mean, I don't mind. I'm fine. That's totally okay with me. It's just a callback to a conversation me and you have been having for, I guess, a couple months now about Gina Carano. Whether she torched her career or whether she was standing up for her beliefs and rights. Disney in the dark of the night basically permabanned her, so it wouldn't make too much of the news. But she's done. She might be done in Hollywood,
Hmm.
which is kind of sad because even though she's not the greatest actress, she had presence. She was good on the screen. So we'll see.
Yeah.
So the
Well,
Batman.
so Batman, I haven't seen it yet. I've seen mixed reviews, and I'm not looking at review. I'm not looking at like Rotten Tomatoes or anything, but just people
Mhm.
we know, and through Facebook. Yeah, I've been seeing a lot of back and forth about what was good, what was bad. What's worrying me is the far left bleeding heart snowflakes that you and I know seem to have really liked it. So I'm a little concerned if I'm going to like it.
I just saw that it was 3 hours long, and I was like, nope, I'm not
I can
going
sit
to.
through a 3 hour movie, no problem.
I'm not in the theater. I'm like, all right, if you're gonna do 3 hours, then I'm gonna do it from home. I'm not going to a theater for 3 hours. But my family watched it. They liked it. They liked it quite a lot. And they did say that it was the comic book people I know really liked it because it was truer to the comic books than the other movies have been. And I think yesterday a deleted scene with the Joker came out, and that's been all the rage. So I've been avoiding it just because of spoilers. But for
Yeah.
people who did watch the movie and haven't seen it yet, go check it out.
Hmm.
But
There's a
I mean,
movie coming out Thursday this week, and I've totally brain farted on what it is, and I'm trying to look it up. I'm trying to look it up right now, real quick. So give me a second. I just want to see.
okay,
Oh, it's Wednesday the 30th. No, it has to be Thursday. I think it was Thursday that it was coming out. Morbius. That's right. I want to see Morbius.
that has been universally said as shit.
Really?
Universally, like every reviewer, like I went through
But
13
Jared
of them.
Leto, man.
They
No, he
said
can't.
that
He doesn't do it, huh?
he wasn't the problem. It was that Disney didn't know what to do with this character. They didn't know they just had no idea what kind of movie they wanted. So it's edited beyond like comprehension. Like it's just a horrible. Do
I
not waste
wonder
your
why they
money.
picked Morbius though, because I don't even know if
Around.
there's any Morbius comics out anymore. Like I haven't seen or heard, or like even going to the local comic book shop, even seeing that laid out with the new issues. So I wonder why they even picked Morbius.
I maybe one of the studio execs said like, oh, we need another genre, so like a horror genre, something. It has been like when it's universally panned, that's one thing. Like when there's mixed reviews, then you're like, maybe it is good, and some people just didn't like it. No,
Right.
like everybody like this is edited horribly, incomprehensible, nothing makes sense. They said Leto was okay, and another actor was okay, but the movie itself is just do not watch.
Do not want.
Yeah, do not, just
All right. Well, listen, my friend, we're getting to that point. I'm still going to give Halo one more shot. I want to see if they
I mean,
uptick.
we'll watch a couple more episodes. Like, I'm not.
We should even try and watch it together, just to compare notes.
Okay. Yeah.
Like I did
All right.
that way back when we talked about the. Totally losing my train of thought. It's late where we are, folks. Justice League, Zack Snyder's Justice League that was reissued, and it was 4 hours, and it was longer for me because I was taking notes while I was watching. So I think you and I should maybe do that with Halo.
Yeah.
And see what we come up with. All right.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
Okay, folks, we had like a million more other things, but as we wanted to go over, but as usual, we fell into the rabbit hole chasing Alice for a little while. So with that, please like and subscribe and continue the conversation in the comments, I guess.
Have a good one.